Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza is brought to you by Sport Relay. Honest, unbiased, and apolitical. Sport Relay, your connection to the diamond. And by A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs, Volumes 1 and 2, by Evan Thompson. Relive the glory. A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs.
This week on Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza, we have breaking news as the Baseball Writers Association of America will add reliever awards. Two fading playoff contenders continue their dreadful relief performances. Injury updates. The latest update of the Drew Pomeranz Ticker. Week 20 team and individual power rankings. And a visit with our special guest, Dodgers beat writer Sonja Chen from MLB.com. Don't go away. Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza begins now. Welcome to Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza. I'm your host, Evan Thompson, Editor-in-Chief, National Writer, and Athletics Writer at Sport Relay. I also wrote these two books, A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs, Volume 1, which covers the pre-divisional tiebreakers through the 1976 American League and National League Championship Series, and Volume 2, the 1977 through 1984 American League and National League Championship Series, as well as the 1981 Division Round and the 1978 American League East Division Tiebreaker and the 1980 NL West Division Tiebreaker. For those who don't know, the AL East Tiebreaker in 1978 was the Bucky Dent game. If you are interested in ordering a copy or two of either or both, there are links in the description box below this video. We have just finished week 20 of the 2025 season. Our statistics include all games through the end of play on Wednesday, August 20th. Let's take a look at some of the biggest stories from the past week in the world of relief pitching. Our top story is some breaking news. While this episode was in editing on Saturday, August 23rd, the Baseball Writers Association of America, or BBWAA, announced that beginning in 2026, they will add Reliever of the Year to their annual awards. This is the first new award they've added since Manager of the Year in 1983, and the first new player award since the establishment of the Cy Young Award for the most outstanding pitcher in 1955. Jayson Stark of The Athletic, who headed this committee, mentioned its existence when he appeared on our show heading into the All-Star break, and he stated some reasons why the award should be added. Here are some highlights of that segment.
I'm the chairman of a committee. Baseball Writers Association of America is considering adding an award to the Cy Young Award, which would be the Relief Pitcher of the Year Award. And, we had Billy Wagner on our Starkville podcast the other day, and we were finished recording. I said to Billy, hey, I'm just curious. You're an example to me of a guy who might have been helped. His Hall of Fame case might have been helped by having an award like this. If we were looking at Billy Wagner's career and we said, whoa, Billy Wagner won 3 Relief Pitcher of the Year awards and finished second 4 times or whatever, that might have changed the way people looked at you and your career. And he said, I don't even care about that. His response was amazing to me. He said, look, we've already got the Mariano Rivera Award and the Trevor Hoffman Award. They're great. People like me vote on it. And what do? We tend to give it to the guys who have the most saves. With your award, if it happens, you have a chance to rise above that. Give it to the guy who came out of the bullpen and pitched the best, no matter what his role is. He said, I used to get all the glory in Houston, and Brad Lidge was better than me. That's a great example, isn't it? So I don't know that this award is going to happen. I don't know if it'll pass. I really can't predict the future on it, but it was interesting that Billy Wagner closer, Hall of Famer, had that take on it. Really, one of the inspirations for the proposal to at least bring this award idea in front of the baseball writers was Mariano Rivera. Is Mariano Rivera in the Hall of Fame, Evan?
Of course.
Fill me in on that. Yeah. Did he get a few votes? Fill me in on that part.
I don't think anybody voted no, if I remember right.
Yeah, that's correct. He was the first unanimous Hall of Famer. How many awards given out by the BBWAA did Mariano Rivera collect in his entire career? Cy Young, MVP, anything. How many? Zero. Never came close. So isn't that reflective of the fact that there is this black hole in our process? And at a time when relief pitchers have never had a greater place of prominence in the sport, I just feel like it's time for our organization to recognize that. And this is right in the wheelhouse of your show, isn't it?
Absolutely. I do think Rivera did get World Series MVP one year, didn't he?
No, the baseball writers, that's not a baseball writer.
That's not a baseball writer.
I'm not saying we didn't know he was playing.
Right, I know.
Nobody ignored Mariano Rivera, but our awards did not have a place for someone at that level of dominance. That's just a mistake.
For more on this development, we go to the president of the Baseball Writers Association of America, Bob Nightengale from USA Today. Bob, thanks for coming in to give us your feedback on this. First off, what's your reaction to the voting result as president of the Writers Association?
Stuff was so lopsided. It was a good, 4-1, almost 5-1 in favor of it. In the same way, about 4-1, 5-1 in favor of 2 awards instead of 1. The original idea was just to have 1, make it more difficult and differentiate between the Rivera and Hoffman awards. But this was the voting body wanted, and a lot of people are happy about it. Some people are very upset about it.
Yeah. Okay, so to follow up on that, you mentioned the Rivera and Hoffman awards. How will these be different from the Rivera and Hoffman awards?
Well, they won't be different. I mean, the only difference is, Rivera Hoffman usually have Hall of Fame pitchers, particularly relievers, that vote on those awards. This is by the baseball writers. And we haven't had a new award since the Manager of the Year vote in 1983. So I would think the only way it may be different is I would think the writers would be, if there's a dominant setup guy, to vote for that guy, at least include him, where I would think the Rivera Hoffman awards might be more than traditional. They just vote for who's ever get the most saves.
Okay. Now, what prompted the creation of the committee that Jayson Stark headed to study and make recommendations about these awards?
Well, Jason brought it up years ago. Got shut down pretty easily. Brought it up again, and this time at the writers meeting in last December, Andy Dagley, also at Athletics, presented his case, and so I said, all right, let's talk about it. I'll form a committee for you guys, and Jason headed that committee, and it went from there. So they came up with the reasons for doing it, a game plan, had them write out their synopsis. So people at the All-Star game, so people at the All-Star game about it, debated about it for about an hour or so, and then said, okay, digest this, and we'll put a vote out. And we did, and a little too late for this year because all the awards, or at least the voters, have already been selected, and also MLB TV has already kind of have a schedule for what they want to do. So going effect in 2026.
Okay, and Jason laid out his arguments. He laid out some on the show a few weeks ago, but in his column that went up yesterday, he laid out some of the arguments in favor of it, ranging from the fact that there have only been 9 relievers to ever win a Cy Young. It hasn't happened in 22 years. The fact that relievers rarely even get Cy Young votes or MVP votes. One that I particularly found interesting was that Mariano Rivera is the only unanimous Hall of Famer, yet he never got a Writers Association award in his whole whole career. Which argument that Jayson made was most convincing to you?
Probably that's been 22 years since a reliever has won a Cy Young. And either you're allowed to vote for him, it just has not happened. And I think, as we can all attest to, relievers are more important in today's game than they ever been. Before, reliever was simply a failed starter. Now relievers are very big in today's game. I mean, sometimes they're starting games. We see how viable they are, of course, in the postseason. But yeah, I think just the fact that it's been so long that even though we're allowed to vote for relievers, we've still been ignoring them.
Okay, and have the eligibility requirements for the award and the requirements to be classified as a reliever, have those two been decided yet?
No, we discussed that a lot and determined, like, you decide what you want. Don't want to have a restriction. So if you want a starter, say a position player that's fishing 9 or 10 games this year and mop up, hey, you're allowed to do it. I mean, they look silly doing it, but we did not want to put a restriction on it. We don't put a restriction on our starters for the Cy Young Award. We don't have restrictions for position players for MVP, so why start now?
Okay, and then the last question I have, with the Cy Young Award, the writers put in their top 5, and their first place gets a certain amount of points on the way down. Manager of the Year and Rookie of the Year, you vote for your top 3. Has it been decided yet how many votes will go into this award?
No, great question. I would lean toward 3. I don't think we need 5. Really don't, particularly if we're doing both ways. I think, it's tough enough to come up with 5 rookies, and we're going on 5 rookies this year for the first time to make it consistent. I think 5 relievers for both leagues would be a lot. We'll see. That has not been determined. Personally, I would like to see 3 more than 5. I think 5 could be pretty watered down if we're talking about 10 relievers.
Okay, and for what it's worth, I agree with you on the 3, but that's neither here nor there. But it's my show, I can say that, right?
Absolutely.
All right, well, anyway, thank you, Bob, for the updates here, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right, look forward to it. Thanks so much, Evan.
This will bring the annual BBWAA award count to 5 per league: MVP, Rookie of the Year, Cy Young Award, Manager of the Year, and now Reliever of the Year. Now for the rest of the A block. Rank the following meltdowns from 1 to 4, with 1 being the most severe. A. Hal McRae's post-game rant.
I didn't want to get myself into a situation where all I had to go after him was all right, and our lefts were swinging the bats well, so I wanted my left-handed hitters to hit.
Did you consider Brett for Miller with the bases loaded in the 7th?
No, don't ask me all these stupid questions. No.
And the all these questions every night. Find the I hit Brett for Miller. Miller started the game. He's playing against left-handed pitchers. Brett is not playing against left-handed pitchers. Why the would I bat for Miller? You think I'm a fool? I'm tired of all these questions every night. And stay out here asking all these dumb questions. Stupid. Ask me that every night. I'm not taking no shit. You guys are not taking no players. I'm sick and tired. I'm fed up with everything. No from you guys, no from you players. And they can do anything they want to do. I'm sick and tired of all this. Now, put that in your pipe and smoke it.
B. Andre Dawson gets ejected and throws more than a dozen bats onto the field.
Pitch looks well low and outside.
Watch it now. Now let's see what caused him to get angry. They're still talking right now about the location of the pitch. Whoa, 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 whoa. George Bell did his best to get in between them. That is so uncharacteristic of Andre Dawson.
And also get the boot. And after that, the bats start to fly.
Now look at Big Eric Gregg. Let's see if he can get his money's worth. He's not through yet, folks, in case you missed it the first time. Really angry. Now here's another batch.
C, from the NFL, Dennis Green after the Arizona Cardinals' spectacular Monday night collapse.
4 picks against Grossman and 2 fumbles. What did you see about the Bears? We shut them down that way?
No, we just the Bears are what we thought they were. What we thought they were. We played them in preseason. Who the hell takes a third game in a preseason like it's bull? We played them in the third game. Everybody played 3 quarters. The Bears are who we thought they were. And that's why we took the field. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their. But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
Thanks, Coach.
And D, the Rangers and Mets relief units between July 28th and the present. These are 2 teams fighting for their playoff lives, yet their relief units are simply not getting the job done. We begin with the American League's Texas Rangers, who won the World Series 2 seasons ago. Their 2025 campaign did not get off to the greatest start, but a strong July, especially after the All-Star break, brought them to a 56-50 record at the end of play on July 27th, which was the last Sunday of the month. They were tied with the Seattle Mariners for second in the American League West, 4 games behind the division-leading Houston Astros, who had just been swept in 4 games at home by the Athletics, by the way. The Rangers and Mariners were also tied for the 3rd wildcard spot in the American League. At the time, the Rangers relief corps, which had struggled at times during the season, especially when protecting a late-game narrow lead, which, as you know, is half of their score, had climbed from its season-low number 22 power ranking, which happened on May 21st and 28th, weeks 8 and 9, to 13th. The Rangers relievers, as of the end of play that Sunday night, July 27th, had an 8.7 overall score, which, as we already said, was 13th in the majors, but was 7th in the American League. An 82, 27, and 41 goose egg, broken egg, and meh total, which was a 3.0 ratio of goose eggs to broken eggs. Put them 9th in the American League in clutch. But the next 2, they were really high, and that's what boosted them a bit, at least. 75.8 scoreless outing percentage, which was 3rd in the American League. An 83 ERA minus, 2nd in the league. Reminder, 100 ERA minus means you're right at league average. 83 means you're 17 percentage points below league average. When you're talking about ERA, where the lower the better, that's good. 51 inherited runners scored out of 156 total, which was 32.7%. 10th in the American League, not great, but that's not that big of a portion of your overall score in the rankings. A 12-18 whip, which was 3rd in the American League. A 2.3 home run percentage, which was 4th in the American League. And a 13.3 K- walk percentage, which was 8th, but that's not in a category that's a very big part of their score. But at the statistical cutoff for this episode, which was the end of play Wednesday, August 20th, the Rangers held a 63-65 record. They had fallen to 3rd in the American League West, 6.5 games out of 1st, and 5 games out of the 3rd wildcard spot. The relief unit had fallen to 21st in the majors with a 4.0 overall score, which is 10th in the American League. 93, 35, 45 goose eggs, broken eggs, and mez. 2.7 goose egg to broken egg ratio, which put them 11th in the American League in clutch. A 74.4 scoreless outing percentage, which was 6th in the American League. A 90 ERA minus, 5th in the American League. 59 inherited runners scored out of 190 total inherited runners, 31.1%, 10th in the American League. A 12.24 whip, which is 3rd, but a 2.7 home run percentage, which is 6th. And same placement in K- walk percentage, although the percentage was slightly different, 13.7%. This means that between July 28th and August 20th, the Rangers won 7 games and lost 15. During that skid, their relief unit had a negative 14.8 overall score, dead last in the American League, 29th in the majors. An 11, 8, and 4 goose egg, broken egg, and meh total, which is a 1.4 goose egg to broken egg ratio. Remember, historical average is 3.0 goose eggs to broken eggs. 1.4 is less than half that. That put them dead last, 15th in the American League in clutch. A 67.6 scoreless outing percentage, 13th in the American League. 121 ERA minus, also 13th in the American League. 8 inherited runners scored out of 34 total, which is 23.5%. Yeah, that's 6. That's a little bit better, but the rest of those definitely overshadowed it. A 12.54 whip, which was 7th in the American League, which isn't bad, but it's not 3rd. And a 4.9 home run percentage, 14th in the American League. And this is small solace to the Rangers relief corps and their fans, a 15.9 K- walk percentage, which is 4th in the American League. Still, dead last in the AL, 29th in the majors. The only major league team whose relievers performed worse in that time span was the New York Mets. On July 27th, they were 62-44, led the NL East by a game and a half after spending most of the season up to that point in first. At that time, the Mets relief corps, which had battled injuries all season and occasionally some shaky middle relief, had constantly come through in clutch late inning situations, especially with Diaz on the mound. They had a 29.0 overall score, 2nd in the National League, 3rd in the majors. 87 goose eggs, 19 broken eggs, 16 mez. It's a ratio of 4.6 goose eggs to broken eggs. Put them 2nd in the National League in clutch. 74.1 scoreless outing percentage, which was 5th in the National League. A 94 ERA minus, which was 8th, but the clutch made up for it. And 57 inherited runners scored out of 172 total, 33.1%, also 8th. But again, those 2 8th place things could be sign of future disaster, but their clutch score was really, really good. 12.18 whip, which was 10th in the NL. 2.3 home run percentage, which is 4th, so they were keeping the ball in the ballpark. And 14.5 Ks- walk percentage, which is 4th in the NL. Not bad at all. But a tailspin between that day and Wednesday, August 20th, made their overall record 67-59. 2nd in the National League East and 6.5 games back. They held the 3rd National League wildcard spot, but only by a game. Their relief unit had fallen to 10th in the majors with a 16.0 overall score, 5th in the National League, but again, 10th in the majors. 93 goose eggs, 26 broken eggs, 19 mez. Ratio of 3.6 goose eggs to broken eggs. They had fallen to 5th in the National League in clutch. Scoreless outing percentage was 6th in the National League, 72.9%. 5th best ERA minus in the National League, 97. 68 inherited runners scored out of 198 total, 34.3%, which is 10th in the National League. Whip was good, 1292, 3rd. 2.4 home run percentage, which is 6th. And 14.1 K- walk percentage, which is 8th. This means that between July 28th and August 20th, when the Mets went 5-15, their relief unit had a negative 28.0 overall score. Dead last in the National League, dead last in the majors. 6 goose eggs, 7 broken eggs, 3 mez. That's a ratio of 0.9 goose eggs to broken eggs. Again, historical average is 3, so it's less than a third that. And rarely do you see a team have more broken eggs than goose eggs. Ugh. Let's put them 15th in the National League in clutch, dead last. Their clutch score was negative 65.8. The next lowest clutch score in the National League over the same time span, negative 26.0 from the St. Louis Cardinals. 11th in scoreless outing percentage in the National League with 66.7%. 12th in the NL in ERA minus with 106. That means their ERA was 6% higher than the league average ERA. Not good. 11 inherited runners scored out of 26 total. That's an inherited runner score percentage of 42.3%, 12th in the NL. Scary part is there were 3 teams that were worse. Their whip was 13.28, 8th. National League average over the time span, 13.14. So they were higher than league average in whip too. 3.1 home run percentage, 12th in the National League. 12.4 K- walk percentage, 9th in the National League. Yuck. So now that you've seen all the details, I'll ask again. Rank those 4 meltdowns from 1 to 4, with 1 being most severe. Hal McRae, Andre Dawson, Dennis Green, the Mets and Rangers bullpens. And if you're a Rangers or Mets fan, feel free to also use the comment section to vent about your team's relief woes. On now to some injury updates. Yankees right-hander Jonathan Loáisiga's rehab for mid-back stiffness just hit another snag with what is now believed to be a right flexor strain, which he suffered during his most recent minor league appearance. Second opinions are being sought. Remember, this guy had Tommy John surgery last year. So we hope it really is right flexor strain and nothing more serious. Josh Hader from the Astros, their lefty closer extraordinaire, out likely for the rest of the regular season. He will not throw for an approximately 3-week period that began August 15th. His absence has exposed how thin the rest of the pen is outside of Brian Abreu. All those relievers have had a tremendously high workload, especially in innings, but also in up-downs. The number of times they have to get up and throw and then sit down and cool off, then get up and throw again and sit down and cool off. Not only in the game, but also warming up in the pen. Marlins got some bad news because setup man extraordinaire Anthony Bender has been shut down for the rest of the year with a right tibial stress reaction, also known as shin splints, but it's on the severe end. Bender ranked number 3 among NL setup men in both Week 18 and Week 19, so this comes as a tremendous blow to the Marlins, who are trying really hard not to fade from the NL wildcard picture. Good news for the Pirates. Lefty middleman Tim Meza and righty middleman Justin Lawrence, who both have been out since April, Meza with a left shoulder lat muscle strain and Lawrence with right elbow inflammation, both began rehab assignments with single-A Bradenton. The Detroit Tigers have a longtime starter rehabbing from a hip injury, Alex Cobb. When he comes back, if he comes back, the Tigers plan to use him exclusively in relief. He could be a multi-inning weapon down the stretch. We'll see. We will also have some updates on the wounded Dodgers relievers, but we'll go through those in more detail when we visit with Sonja Chen in a few minutes. But before going there, I'll say now that we at Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza, as always, wish a full and speedy recovery to all these players and everyone else on the injured list. Now, it is time once again for the Drew Pomeranz Ticker. Between August 14th and August 20th, he made 1 appearance on the road, and it was scoreless. This means that, as a reliever, he still has not given up an earned run on the road since July 21st, 2021 at Atlanta. His road scoreless streak has increased to 21 appearances. We will, of course, keep tracking this impressive streak as long as it lasts. Coming up next, the Team Power Rankings. Welcome back to Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza. Time now for the Team Relief Core Power Rankings. They include every pitch thrown in relief by a player wearing these teams' uniforms, excluding position pitchers. This table shows the scoring breakdown. Teams are ranked in clutch, run prevention, base runner prevention, and command, weighted as shown. The final score determines the ranking. 0 means right at league average. Positive is better than average. Negative is below average. A score of 100 means the team is 100% better than league average. A score of 50 is 50% better. A score of negative 50 is 50% lower, and so on. Each whole number equals 1 percentage point. Statistics run through the end of play on Wednesday, August 20th. We will start with the number 30 team and work our way to number 1. American League teams will appear in red. National League teams will appear in blue. The first number in parentheses after the team name is their rank within their specific league, national or American. The number after the comma indicates the change in their major league rank since our last episode. Here we go. Pray for a blowout win if you're backing the number 30 Washington Nationals, last in the majors yet again with negative 10.1. The number 29 Chicago White Sox, who are also unchanged with a score of negative 9.8. And then the number 28 Arizona Diamondbacks, who have slipped 1 spot with a score of negative 5.6. Stock up on Tums for these next 3. The number 27 Colorado Rockies, who climbed 1 spot despite their negative 2.4 mark. Number 26, the Tampa Bay Rays, down 1 with negative 2.2. And the number 25 Los Angeles Angels, also down 1 spot after posting negative 1.5. The next 3 relief units have lots of work to do, especially the middle one if they want to make the playoffs. Number 24, the Atlanta Braves, up 2 spots with 1.0. Number 23, the New York Yankees, down 1 with 1.4. And the number 22 Baltimore Orioles ticking up 1 spot with 2.7. We've got a single team caution flag for this next one. The Texas Rangers. They're number 21, which would normally put them at slightly below average, but we put them in their own special group this week. In free fall, they have plummeted 5 spots to 4.0 after a rough stretch that we profiled in detail earlier. The next 3 Pens are the rest of that group, but they aren't in free fall. They're just slightly below average. The number 20 Cincinnati Reds, down 1 with 4.16, rounded to 4.2. The number 19 St. Louis Cardinals, edging up 1 spot to 4 with 4.21, rounded to 4.2. And the number 18 Los Angeles Dodgers, holding firm in their position with 4.3. These next 3 units make up the average. Number 17 Detroit Tigers, who have leapt up 4 spots with 6.4. The number 16 Philadelphia Phillies, down 1 with 7.3. And the number 15 Athletics, who have climbed 2 spots after a score of 7.9. 2 by 2 we march through slightly above average. The number 14 Milwaukee Brewers, unchanged with 9.5 points. The number 13 Toronto Blue Jays, who fell 1 with 10.8. The number 12 Kansas City Royals, up a spot with 13.2. And the number 11 Pittsburgh Pirates, who are standing pat with 13.5. We got one more team to put in free fall, the number 10 New York Mets, who fell 4 spots with their 16.0 score. Again, we detailed earlier just how much they've struggled since the end of July. These next 2 teams make up the good. You got the number 9 Minnesota Twins, up a spot with 17.0, and the number 8 San Francisco Giants, who held steady with 18.3. The very good tier features 4 clubs this week. The number 7 Miami Marlins, who dropped 2 spots with 20.7. The number 6 Houston Astros, who climbed 3 spots with 21.0. The number 5 Seattle Mariners, who are down 1 with 21.2. And the number 4 Boston Red Sox, who also fell 1 spot with 21.9. You'd better take an early lead against these last 3. The number 3 Chicago Cubs, who soared 4 spots with a score of 24.0. The number 2 Cleveland Guardians, tops in the AL, but down 1 to number 2 in the majors with 30.9. And tops in the National League and back to tops in the majors, the San Diego Padres, up 1 spot with 34.4. The biggest gainers this week are the Cubs and Tigers, who each gained 4. The Astros up 3, and the Athletics and Braves gainers of 2 places apiece. The sharpest drops come from the Rangers, who fell 5, the Mets, who fell 4, and the Marlins, who slipped 2 spots. Before we end this segment, a look at this week's scatter plot. We will be right back with our guest, Sonja Chen. Don't close that video yet. Welcome back to Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza. With me now is, from MLB.com, Dodgers beat writer, Sonja Chen. Sonja, welcome to the show.
Hey, Evan. Thanks so much for having me on.
So back in May, I was going to have Bill Plunkett on, and we didn't know if Bill was going to be at the games. And Sonja was awesome. She said, if Bill doesn't show up Thursday, I'll be your guest. I was like, okay. Well, Bill showed up Thursday and was on and did a great job. And I was like, I'm having you on later this year. And the Dodgers swept the Padres last weekend, so perfect opportunity. Have you on. Sonja is in her 4th year with MLB.com after graduating from Boston University. She spent 3 years as a local writer for the Bay Area, and now she's in her 1st year as the Dodgers beat writer. So, Sonja, how has it been covering the Dodgers, first off?
Yeah, it's been, there's always something going on. I feel like I never have to think too hard about what I'm going to write on a certain day, which can be kind of a blessing and a curse, but it's been so just exciting and interesting all the way through. It's great being able to cover one team and feel like you can really like dig into what's going on with them and know them, where in my role before I would pretty much have a new team every series I covered, so I didn't get any like familiarity like that at all. And yeah, a team like this with an exciting division race too down the stretch now, very fun, and I think it'll only get more, fun, interesting as the season wraps up.
Me personally, I started covering in 2019. The Dodgers have been awesome to me at all times. They have been terrific. Dave Roberts is a super nice guy. Has that been your experience too?
Yeah, I think, Dave especially just very easy to work with. It's a trait that not a lot of managers have, where I think they're just, they kind of entertain any question. I mean, he does. He entertains any question, does his best to answer. That's not like, the other 29 managers aren't necessarily all doing that. And, Dave, I think the thing about him is he really understands what his job is and the market that he works in, and he kind of embraces everything that comes along with it.
There you go. And one big storyline with the Dodgers this year has been pitcher injuries, but especially in that relief corps. Their whole back end, except Alex Vesia, has been hurt at some point this year, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So they don't really do they still not have a singular closer?
Yeah, I mean, definitely not right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's just start there, right? But even when Tanner Scott was healthy, Dave Roberts did in the front office kind of stayed away from calling him the closer, and that was pretty much a name only. Like, the important thing about Tanner Scott when he was healthy was that, you always had an idea of who was going to pitch the ninth inning, and it pretty much was always him when he was on the active roster. That has been a big question mark pretty much since he went on the IL. So yeah, I think just, the roster clarity and kind of the clarity of the bullpen roles, like that's going to be a very key thing once he is back, which I would expect like probably next week at the latest.
Okay. It'll be good to see him back out there. I never like seeing people get hurt. I want everybody to be out there playing. I want the best people playing, best of their ability. What about the other wounded warriors in that pen? I'm talking about Kirby Yates, Michael Kopech, even Brock Stewart.
Yeah, so Kirby Yates also on a rehab assignment. He and Tanner Scott both started on the same day, Tuesday, August 19th. Mm-hmm. So I think the two of them will probably be back around the same time. I think possibly at the earliest, like this weekend series against the Padres. That might be a little soon if, they'll make multiple outings on rehab, and like considering the rest days, but I wouldn't count that out. But early next homestand, I would say for sure. And then Kopech, he's eligible to come off the 60-day IL on August 27th, so that's a week from today. Mm-hmm. I would assume that they will bring him back around then. Like, he kind of has said since he had his knee surgery that he feels that he should be able to come back, right on schedule. And he started his rehab assignment like about a week ago. So I would think that he'll have enough reps under his belt, like on his rehab assignment, where he should be good to go in a week's time.
Okay, good. And before we went on, we were talking about how the Dodgers seem to have a curse with pitcher injuries. The only big name relief pitcher that has since become hurt since the trade deadline is the guy the Dodgers picked up, Brock Stewart. Where is he on his return to play path?
Yeah, so Brock, I did talk to him recently. I'm not on the road series in Denver right now, but before they left town, and he he's already starting to feel better. He had a couple of injections, like a cortisone shot and a PRP. He went after going on the IL. The idea was that he would be shut down from throwing for a week, and then from there take a few more weeks to build up. So that would put him like presumably at some point in September, mid-September-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just in time.
Yeah. And
because they've got some big series at the end of
that,
September, correct? All division.
Yeah, they do.
Then they have that tough one in Seattle to close the season, right?
Yeah, that one, depending on how things go with the Padres, that one could end up being meaningful, and the Mariners might also have something to play for then. So not that anyone's taking any series off, but with seeding kind of being something that the Dodgers will have to monitor in the National League, they really might have to kind of fight hard till the end.
Yeah, and they'll need to take a lead before the 8th inning, because when you get to the 9th, Andres Munoz has either been, in our rankings, he's been either number 1 or number 2 in the American League all season, and he was only number 2 for 3 weeks. So, I mean, the dude is an absolute stud. He is lights out, good night, game over. So, I'm sure the Dodgers know that. I'm sure they'd also be the ones to want to spoil his numbers, but yeah, so that'll be fun. Now, shifting gears a bit, August has been weird.
Yes.
So here are the series. They were at Tampa Bay, August 1st through 3rd. They won 2 out of 3. Okay. Come home, drop 2 out of 3 to the Cardinals, who have surrendered, traded everyone who they could get anything for. And then they win 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays, who are still in first place in the AL East. Then they get swept by the Angels, meaning not just that series, but the whole season, because they got swept at Dodger Stadium when they played them at Dodger Stadium. Then they go and sweep the Padres. And now they're 1-1 against the Rockies going into today's game. What the heck is going on?
Yeah, I wish there was an easy answer to that question, It's been bizarre to watch and bizarre to make anything of, but it's kind of been what we've been seeing since the beginning of July. Like when Muncy got hurt the first time, his knee, right then they went on a long losing streak, but when they start winning games, they just haven't been able to string that many together. When they swept the Padres over the weekend, that was their first 3-game winning streak since July 3rd. And at that point, they had won 4 in a row. And yeah, they're just building momentum has been a difficult thing. And I think part of it, if you look at some of the series that they've won versus some of the series that they've lost, I don't think anyone wants to, use this as an excuse, but when they play with some sort of urgency, it tends to bring out the best in them, it seems. Like this weekend against the Padres, division lead was at stake. Yes, it's August, but when you're playing them head to head, like you have to take advantage of that opportunity. So that was urgency. I think the Blue Jays, there's a lot of urgency there because this is the top team in the American League at the time. You have to come out on the other side of that well. And the Rays had already been fading, but I still think there's an element of that as well. And, it's not like these other series aren't important, and they do understand that, but I think it's like similar to how last postseason, they, despite everything, the 3 starters that they were using and other injuries that they were weathering, like they found kind of another gear, were able to turn that on, and it feels a bit like that's what we've been seeing recently.
Right. I remember, that was one of the best managing jobs I've ever seen Dave do, was how he managed the back end of that pen, because they were on fumes. And like There was that. Shohei was playing with one arm from game 2 of the World Series onward. Freddie was on another planet. But yeah, so looks like he might have to do that again because the back end, they're all hurt. Now, as far as the Dodgers pen, as of 2 nights ago, we had him 10th in the National League for the full season and 18th in the majors. And then when I did August 1st to the present, their standing was the same, which is really bizarre. But so 10th in the NL, 18th in the majors. First off, does that surprise you? Do you think they should probably be higher, should be lower? Does that sound about right given your observations? What?
I'd consider that about right. They've been very like heavily worked as a bullpen. I think that's one of the biggest things. And I think kind of considering that, it's a little more surprising that there haven't been more like just over the course of the season, kind of like late inning blowups. Like obviously recently, the 8th and 9th innings, like those have been a point of concern and very rightfully so. But I think ultimately, just given some of the arms that they've had to use, like this is by no means the group that they expected to have, and
right.
They're still getting like a fair amount out of what they're working with. So I think kind of middle of the pack, lower third is like that feels about right.
Okay. And do Dave Roberts and Mark Pryor have any fingernails left right now?
I don't know.
If I were working for Mark Pryor, I think mine would be gone. I would have none left.
I feel like for me the stakes of it all is more like, do I have to erase everything I've just written, or heavily rework it? But hey, up in the press box, I try to keep my hands away from my face as much as possible.
Right.
Keep my skin intact.
Wait, covering the Diamondbacks in 2021 when they lost 110 games, my hairline did recede because I was doing this so much. Torey Lovello even noticed it. He's like, "F, man." So I understand that. I try to use the Bill Plunkett method when writing, where you have the main bulk of your story done when the final out happens. I'm assuming you do something similar. Have you ever had to hit this season Control A to select everything and hit delete and just start over?
I think there was a time when I did pretty much have to scrap everything I wrote, and it's pretty on theme with what we're talking about. I think it was like early June. There was a game against the Mets where at Dodger Stadium, Tanner Scott, it was an extras, so this one wasn't like entirely on him, but I forget if
it was the automatic runner then.
Yeah, it might have been an automatic runner situation, but it came after like a pretty tough couple of weeks for him. So, before this, like I forget what else I was even going to write about, before, but at that point I was like, gotta go all in on this instead. So I'm pretty sure that I did just delete everything for that one, but that's a painful moment,
Yeah. The Angels series, the sweep. You mentioned to me when we were doing a semi-cold run that there were some late inning blowups. Can you go into more detail on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, that really kind of factored into, I think not the first game. Yeah, the first game was the one started by Yamamoto.
Right.
And right, yeah. So that one, bullpen wasn't really a part of it, but the next two, yes. And one night it was Alex Vesia, and this was during his own, like, his toughest stretch of the season, which very unfortunate timing. Like it's going to happen to everyone, but for the most kind of consistent guy in the pen in August to be dealing with this at a time when there's just not many other like reliable arms at the back end, it really stood out more than it might have, had there been like just, I don't know, healthier bullpen that they had expected to have.
Right.
So Vestia was one night, and then the other night, that one...
Was that the one where it was Alexis Diaz?
That was the one where he would have pitched the ninth.
Oh, okay.
So what happened, I'm remembering now. So Dave Roberts was trying to get a third inning out of Justin Wrobleski, which, I think that was a fair thing to do, just because he is the length guy, and he had looked pretty good that night, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. And the other guys were running on fumes, right?
And the other guys were running on fumes.
Okay.
So he doesn't get an out in the 8th inning. Dave goes to Edgardo Henriquez, who he hasn't seen a lot of time up here this year, and last year, also just kind of a cup of coffee. He's looked good, but, I think when you're expecting, like, yes, it may be triple digits up to 103, but if you're expecting the fastball, which I think that night Logan O'Hoppe was,
Yeah.
it can be hittable, right?
Right.
So it was, Justin Wrobleski, Edgardo Henriquez. I do remember thinking that night, who's pitching the ninth? And then we found out later that it would have been Alexis Diaz, which, he's had moments where he's looked quite good, but I think you ideally, if you're this Dodgers team, you don't want him closing out your games just yet.
Right. I mean, prior to this spring, he was one of the better closers in the National League. He was coming into the year as the Reds closer, completely fell apart. Reds let him go. Dodgers picked him up. In his 9 games with the team, again, I don't count last night, but he didn't pitch last night. 9 games in relief, 9 innings pitched. So it's good that the innings pitched and the games in relief line up. You never want the games in relief to be more than the innings pitched when you have his role. So that's good. But 2 homers to 38 batters, that's a home run percentage that's 5 and some change. Not what you want. His whip's right at 1,000. So that's good. That's fine. But yeah, 5.3 home run percentage. League average for relievers is in the high 2s. And then 18.4 Ks minus walks, which is, it's better than average, but with a guy like him, you'd expect it to be in the 20s, right? So how have you seen him fit in? He's 2/3 of his appearances have been scoreless. So he's given up runs in 3 of the 9. 33% with inherited runners. How have you seen him fit in with the Dodgers? What have the Dodgers said about the role they expect him to have once they're a fully armed and operational battle station again?
Yeah, I think, I think when they are at full strength, I'm honestly not super positive that he has a spot in this bullpen. And it's possible that changes once they get the extra roster spot for a pitcher September 1st. There still might be reason to keep him around. I think he's been valuable, enough kind of in his time with the Dodgers. But if you're looking for kind of lockdown the way that they are, he's been that some nights, but I think we're still seeing the inconsistency that, that kind of like discolored the end of his time with the Reds. But, there's the work that they've done with him. I think they think that the team thinks that he is kind of getting closer to that all-star form of him from 2 years ago, at least in the delivery and the mechanics. They're really happy with that. It might be one of those things where we almost need to see him in some bigger situations to see if he has kind of earned the trust potentially going forward, carve out a bigger role. But I'm also not quite certain that he's there yet, in the trust tree, so to speak. So I would expect him, if everything health-wise goes the way that the Dodgers want, it to go. I wouldn't see him on a postseason roster. Not that I would count him out, but like right now, this point in time, I don't quite see him fitting.
Is his ceiling, once everybody's back, do you think his ceiling might be middle relief, like 6th inning type thing?
But that feels about right. But again, this team, it's like you kind of never know, and they like to mix and match. And I think something recently too for the games that seem bigger, like Dave Roberts hasn't been shy about kind of throwing his leverage relievers a little earlier, if it's like out of spot in the order where it's like you just need to nullify this now and then rest of the game, hopefully it kind of pays dividends.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think it was our mutual friend Jack Harris who said this to me a couple years ago, that Dave approaches it where he splits the lineup up in thirds, and basically a certain part of the lineup, he's going to use the pitcher that works best for that part of the lineup. So he's not necessarily using his best high leverage guys in the 9th inning, but in the inning where the toughest hitters come up. Is that still the case?
Yeah, I would say generally yes. And, it's still all kind of situational, but yeah, like I think that is a big reason why like Tanner Scott, although he was the closer, kind of wasn't the closer in name, because, maybe he'd be better suited for the part of the lineup that's up in the 8th, something like that. So yeah, that's kind of what I've noticed this
year.
He
faces the meat of the order, basically.
Yeah, for sure. Or just whatever the best lane is, for a lefty.
Right.
Like, yeah.
That's kind of, with lefty closers, Josh Hader is not your common lefty closer. Aroldis Chapman is not your common lefty closer. Billy Wagner is not. Those are their own breed. But I've noticed with a lot of other lefty closers, managers still kind of use them situationally at times. And it looks like Dave does that with Tanner Scott, correct?
Yeah. And like I think to an extent too, that's kind of why like Vesia has been used the way he has this year, where I kind of would have thought, just like kind of conventional, like when Trinan was out and Tanner Scott was out, Kirby Yates, I think by the time Yates went on the IL, Trinan was back, but I might be wrong. There have been so many IL stints.
Right.
At that point, I kind of would have thought, like, use Vesia in the 9th, but he's, instead of just automatically going 9th, he's kind of finding the best, fit for him, which that also, of course, makes complete sense.
Right, and because of that, we have Vesia listed as a setup man. We have not listed him as a closer all year, but with setup men, he is 9th in the National League, or was 9th in the National League last week. So there's that. Other Dodger highlights there. Jack Dreyer, 7th in middle relief last week. We won't mention where Tanner Scott was because he was not in the top 5. But so Jack Dreyer, where did this guy come from?
Yeah, it's been kind of amazing to watch him all season, I can't really speak for myself last year since I wasn't really looking at this team's farm system, but he wasn't a ranked prospect. He was added to the 40-man roster to protect him from the Rule 5 draft. I think that's when he really got on the radar of like, people covering the Dodgers and probably fans too. Back in spring training, Dave said that, had the injuries really gotten bad, like Dreyer was pretty close to getting a call last year. Yeah. So, but it never got to that point, I guess. But the thing that's stood out to me all season long is that he just never looks fazed by any situation. Jack Dreyer, like, come in with guys on base, even if they're his own runners too, like, he just kind of settles into whatever situation and just always throughout the year has been good at, limiting damage.
So it sounds like he's as cool as the ice cream that shares his name.
That's right.
That was one of the worst jokes I've done all season. Okay. So, looking at the rest of the NL West, Padres still have one of the best pens in baseball. And they were ranked number one going into the trade deadline, and then they went and shocked everyone, including Martine and me, by getting Mason Miller. We're just like, what? This isn't even fair. Come on. When the Padres came through, did you see that effectiveness from their pen?
Yeah, I think the Dodgers actually this year, they played the Padres well, and they have actually been able to get to the bullpen, but for the most part, not, in like smaller ways. But yeah, it's a daunting group. I mean, I think for the most part, like I did look this up over the weekend, and I wish I had the exact stat right now, but they've had to do a lot of damage against the starting pitchers, when they can. Not that that's the easiest thing ever either.
Right.
Because there's kind of no guarantee. Like, I think if anyone, the Dodgers have actually been pretty decent against Jeremiah Estrada this year. Yeah. And they've gotten, Mookie Betts took Robert Suarez deep to complete the sweep over the weekend. So there's been that, but
did he keep the baseball? Because guys don't homer off Suarez often.
I don't think so, but hey, maybe you should.
Yeah, I think he's only given up like 3 all year, and one was to the Diamondbacks. I don't remember which player. But his record against the Diamondbacks, by the way, is not good. That's one interesting thing about Suarez. But yeah, they've been his kryptonite. But sounds like the Dodgers have been Estrada's kryptonite. And how did they hit Morejon? I didn't get to see the series, and I don't recall offhand. Was Morejon pretty much shut down, or did they get to him a little bit?
I think he was pretty much shut down. Honestly, I should probably remember better, but it's, Morejon versus Ohtani, that's still quite the neutralizer right there.
Yeah.
So that, that still works pretty well.
Right.
Understatement.
And then Mason Miller.
That's a contrast, seeing these two bullpens like right next to each other, seeing how they have to try to match up to keep things where they're at. And that is the thing with the Dodgers, where even though their bullpen is not where they want it, and it's not, stat-wise, definitely not the best in the National League, in the majors, they find ways to rise to the occasion in these games.
They do, and they're protecting a 2-game division lead. Are they playing 4 against the Padres this weekend, or 3?
3.
3, okay, in San Diego. I assume you'll be at that one because it's an hour and a half drive from you. Yeah, I thought so. Okay, and do they face the Padres at all the rest of the season after that, or is that it?
No, this is all.
Okay, so they'll be out of the way, and then they still have to play the Giants, I think, one more time, and then the Rockies 1 or 2 more times, Diamondbacks 2 more times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it'll be interesting to see down the stretch. Well, that is about all the time we have. Your shirt looks like an End ALS shirt. Is that correct?
That it is.
Do you want to do a plug for that?
Sure, I can. Yeah. So, the wonderful Sarah Langs is one of my coworkers at MLB.com, and she's battling ALS. She's also just, always such a big part of what makes, I'll go broad, just baseball so special. Mm-hmm. She is the absolute best at finding just interesting details, interesting facts, and like my favorite thing about her is just how much like genuine joy that she brings to watching these games. I think there's so many cynical baseball fans out there, and I do get it. It's easy to be like that when you're a fan, but yeah, there's a lot of joy in it too. And yeah, Sarah's the best. The shirt is on RotoWear, and they donate a share of the profits to, I believe, the ALS Foundation.
Okay. We'll throw that link up in the description box for this episode. And it says baseball is the best. That's one of Sarah's, I don't want to call it a catchphrase, but it pretty much is.
Yeah.
Because she genuinely means it. She doesn't just say it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And that is just the special thing about her.
I've met her twice. She's one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. We were talking during the World Baseball Classic about Randy Arozarena and the stuff he was doing. So, really cool. I'm glad you wore that shirt to honor her. I don't have one. I need to get one because Sarah's a sweetheart, and I hope we can end ALS so we can have her around longer. But that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming by the show and gracing us with your presence and your knowledge and your expertise on the Men in Blue. Wait, they aren't called that. That's the police, right? Okay. Let me try that again. Your expertise on the Boys in Blue. That's the Dodgers. Right?
There we go.
The Boys in Blue. Have a great rest of the season. Love to have you on again sometime. And you take care of yourself.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Evan. You too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We'll be right back, so don't go away. Welcome back to Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza. It is time for the individual power rankings. Statistics include every regular season game through the end of play on Wednesday, August 20th. To qualify, pitchers must have at least 25 relief appearances. And for the Goose Egg Broken Egg Plus stat, which is the backbone of the clutch category, there is a minimum of 12 goose eggs plus broken eggs. As always, the full breakdown of our ranking methods can be found via the link in the description box below this video. First, the American League middle relievers. In 10th, Brendan Little of the Toronto Blue Jays with 15.4. In 9th, from the Royals, Taylor Clark with 15.8. 8th, Eduard Bizardo from the Mariners with 16.5. 7th with 20.4 from the Rays, Brian Baker. 6th with 20.6, Bennett Sousa of the Astros. 5th, his teammate Steven Okert with 21.3. In 4th, with 21.9, Garrett Clevenger of the Rays. In 3rd, with 26.6 from the Astros, Brian King. In 2nd, with 27.4 from the Rangers, Danny Coulombe. And in 1st, yet again, with 34.7 from the Blue Jays, Braden Fisher. Now we head to the National League middle relievers. In 10th, from the Brewers with 17.7, Nick Mears. In 9th, from the Mets with 17.9, Gregory Soto. In 8th, from the Dodgers with 18.6, Jack Dreyer. 7th place, from the Cardinals with 23.1, Matt Swanson. In 6th, from the Padres, David Morgan with 25.1. Just above him in 5th by 0.2 of a point. 25.3 from the Brewers, Shelby Miller. A little bit more of a gap to 4th with 30.0 from the Cubs, Caleb Thielbar. In 3rd, from the Padres with 30.2, Jeremiah Estrada. In 2nd, the Ticker Man with 35.5 from the Cubs, Drew Pomeranz. And in 1st yet again, from the Padres, All-Star Adrian Morejon with 38.8. Shifting now to the American League setup men. In 10th with 57.4 from the Royals, John Schreiber. In 9th from the Rays with 62.4, Edwin Uceta. In 8th with 80.0, Matt Brash of the Mariners. In 7th with 80.4 from the Yankees, Luke Weaver, one of the funniest men I've ever met. In 6th from the Guardians with 84.1, Hunter Gaddis. In 5th, used to be of the Twins, now from the Rays with 86.3, Griffin Jacks. Twins fans, I did not mean to drive that dagger in, so please don't think that was done as a dig. It wasn't. In 4th, from the Red Sox with 87.6, Garrett Whitlock. In 3rd, with 87.7, from the Rangers, Phil Maton. In 2nd, from the Royals, big jump here with 109.8, Lucas Erceg. And in 1st, from the Astros, with 131.3. He's a setup man, although he's their acting closer right now in the absence of the wounded Josh Hader, Brian Abreu. Across to the National League setup scene. In 10th, although he's falling, with 52.7 from the Reds, Graham Ashcraft. In 9th, from the Dodgers with 56.9, Alex Vesia. Coming in 8th from the Giants with 59.6, Ryan Walker. In 7th with 69.3, Dylan Lee from the Braves. In 6th from the Mets with 74.6, Tyler Rogers. Coming in 5th, Abner Uribe of the Brewers with 82.1. In 4th from the Reds with 83.0, Tony Santillan. In 3rd from the Cubs with 92.8, Brad Keller. And the top 2 are Padres teammates yet again. In 2nd, Mason Miller with 102.0. And in 1st, All-Star Jason Adam with 120.3. And finally to the closers, starting with the American League. In 5th, from the Angels with 103.9, the ageless wonder, probable future Hall of Famer Kenley Jansen. In 4th, from the Guardians with 107.5, Cade Smith. In 3rd, from the Tigers with 141.6, boy is he having a great season, Will Vest. In 2nd, from the Red Sox with 154.3, another ageless wonder, Aroldis Chapman. And in 1st by a ridiculous margin, with 258.2 from the Mariners, he's had 1st place for all but 3 weeks this season, Andres Munoz. Please note, if Josh Hader, who's currently on the injured list for the Astros, were not injured, he would have ranked 2nd in the American League with a score of 183.9. We really hope he gets better soon. And we wrap it up in the National League, where the number 1 spot remains firmly in one man's grip. I had to stop playing his theme song, though, because of copyright. I wasn't using all 20 seconds. I digress. Okay. In 5th, from the Marlins with 94.8, Calvin Fauché. In 4th, from the Brewers with 134.2. What a jump that is. Almost 50 whole points. Again, from the Brewers, Trevor McGill. In 3rd, he's fallen a little bit with 154.7, Robert Suarez of the Padres, one of the All-Stars this year. In 2nd, from the Pirates, and a big reason why they were comfortable trading David Bednar, with 166.6, Dennis Santana. And in 1st yet again, with 205.3, from the Mets, Edwin Diaz. That concludes this installment of Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza from Sport Relay. Join us next time when we will reveal our weekly power rankings for Week 21. And we'll have another guest. You'll have to tune in to see, though. I'm Evan Thompson. Thanks for watching, and we will see you then. Thank you for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. Click subscribe so you'll never miss an episode of this show or of our other show, Trade Trees. Tell your friends and baseball contacts. If you haven't done so yet, consider buying my books. A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs, Volume 1 and Volume 2. There are links in the description box below this video. And finally, bookmark and regularly visit sportrelay.com. Until next time, this is Evan Thompson saying so long for now.